Hey everyone, welcome to Let's Debate. I'm Let's Farm, and I'm here with my co-host Sparrow. As soon as I add her back to the stream, hold on. And we are, and we will be your moderators for this debate. Our topic tonight is which explains the universe better, science or God? And we look forward to a great debate between these two. In one corner, we have Kent Hovind, who brings the case that God is the better explanation for the universe. And in the other corner, we have Joe, the Kentucky atheist, on the side of science. We will be having up to a 10-minute opening per side, 1 hour of open dialogue, and a short closing statement followed by audience questions. Remember to tag the moderators or Let's Debate with your questions for our debaters. Please remember to hit that thumbs up and like the show. And don't forget to subscribe for more great content. Little reminder, please attack the argument and not the debaters or each other. Now, since you're not here to listen to me ramble on, let's get to the show. Ken has allowed Joe to go first. So, Joe, if you'd like to get us started, take it away. Oh, I can't hear you. You're muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. It doesn't work well with the mute button on. All right. Thanks for having us hosting this debate. Let's Farm and Let's Debate. And I hope everybody who's found the link can come here, subscribes to your channel, and we can do more debates like this over here. My name's Joe. I run the channel The Kentucky Atheist. A few of you may know me, may not. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But today, Kent and I wanted to talk about some of the origins of the universe and how we look at this through a scientific lens and compare it maybe some to the religious views of this. Or, as my opponent may tell you and say that actually my view of it is a religious view of it. And I'm sure we'll get into that and discuss it, and that's great and everything. I think that whenever we're talking about religion and science on the same subject, I don't think the two things are very compatible, honestly. But I will say that I think the goals of science are to give a descriptive look at the universe and the mechanisms that drive it, whereas religious views are to accept on faith that it's the way that whatever your chosen religious text says it is, and then you're forced to define a God into existence to control that universe. The properties and the actions of a creator God in this context are important to the other conversations that we have about evolution and many other things, because if we can't get past the point to where there's any good reason at all to suggest a creator, then all of those other things begin to crumble under the weight of that as well. So I think this is a really important topic, and I'd like to thank Kent and the people over at DAL for setting this up and coming and doing it and talking to us and stuff. I think that this can be beneficial for both sides of this argument. And just to be clear, for today's debate, I wrote no intros. I prepared none at all. I've brought no slides. I've brought no sources. I have brought no citations. We are asking a question here of which gives this description best. I can sit and explain to you all day long the mechanisms of the universe and what we think happened at the origin or the eternal universe, depending on what your view of it is. But I could sit and tell you about those things all day long. That does nothing, because really the question is here is there, we have one set of things that describes the universe and its workings, and another that doesn't describe anything, just tells you it's this way. It's a claim rather than a description. And so when we're talking about how the universe works, I would actually suggest that religion only makes claims about a creator. It never tells you how any of it works or how it could work. And when it attempts to do that in the only source that they have, which is the Bible, it fails completely at it and contradicts itself and gets things that are impossible as conclusions. So today it's going to be a lot of back and forth about, is there any good reason to suggest those things are true? And I think this is going to be more based on the philosophical position rather than the facts about the universe. So I'm prepared to talk about those things. This is a topic that I'm comfortable talking about, but I don't think it's really going to come into play here. I think we're going to have a lot of is there any reason to suggest that's true thing. So with that, I don't need the rest of the time. I'm interested to get into talking to Kip back and forth and see what he has to say. And I'll go ahead and concede the rest of my time. And thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you very much for that opening statement. Joe will now turn to Ken for his opening. Take it away. Floor's yours.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. And you guys are always welcome to come down here to our Dinosaur Adventure Land in Lenox, Alabama. We have a science center, a theme park, all kinds of cool stuff. We now have the world's largest horseshoe crab. Used to be up in Ohio. We just brought all the pieces down here. We're putting it together, 67 feet long. We're building a Noah's Ark. Visitors from all over. You're all welcome. Anybody's come welcome. We have 30 cabins you can stay in. Anyway, I think that Joe is mistaken if he thinks the debate is between science and God. He is right that I will say evolution is a religion. There's no scientific evidence. Nobody's ever seen any animal produce any different kind of offspring than their own kind. It just doesn't happen. Really, since this has to do with the origin of the universe, we really need to start with what they call the Big Bang. The word evolution has many different meanings, and I cover this carefully in my seminars that I do all over the world. I used to, and now I just sit here and do them all over the world. But the cosmic evolution, that i.e. the Big Bang, without this vital step being answered scientifically, none of the other steps of evolution matter. Where did matter come from? Where did energy come from? Where did space come from? Where did time come from? Okay. Everything else is simply a fairy tale if you can't get past first base. Where did time, space, matter, and energy come from? There is no scientific answer. There isn't one. They won't admit that theirs is a religious answer, I know, but it is nothing but religion. You can believe it if you want. There'd be nothing to evolve, no space to evolve in, and no energy to make it happen. This is nothing but a propaganda poster. This picture, oh yes, boys and girls, long time ago, a dot of near nothing exploded and finally became humans. And people look at this, wow, it must be true. They made a picture. This is propaganda poster is all it is. And biological evolution is the heart of modern biology, this guy says. This is Lawrence Krauss, who believes in evolution. Cosmic evolution is the heart of modern cosmology. For instructors to be confident in teaching science, it is helpful for them to appreciate the current understanding of the composition and development of the universe. I agree. I think we need to understand, how did the universe get here? I think you're going to find you run into a brick wall. We simply cannot know that thing. Either somebody made the universe, i.e. God, or the universe made itself, which of course makes the universe God, okay? Especially the revolutionary changes that have taken place in our understanding over the last 2 decades. Biological evolution requires the products of cosmic evolution. The elements of which our life is composed were formed in the cores of stars. Oh, so the elements to make life were formed in the core of a star. This is a propaganda statement. This is not a scientific statement. Lawrence Krauss can't possibly know such a thing. He can believe that, he can imagine it, but it's not science. I love science. Science is what we can observe, study, test, and demonstrate. I taught science in high school for 15 years. I love science. Evolution is not part of it. It's a religion mixed in with science. I point out that beer is often sold at football games. Beer has nothing to do with football, nothing. And beer does not become athletic by association with football. Evolution is just like beer at a football game. It's not related to science. It's a religious belief. You're welcome to keep it. I don't care what you believe. But don't call it science, and don't pollute our science textbooks with that, what I think is a stupid religion, believing we all came from a dot of nothing. So, evolution, according to Eric Chasen, who's also a strong evolutionist, ascent with change of nature's many varied systems has become a powerful unifying about the sciences. In its broadest sense, cosmic evolution, which includes the subject of big history, comprises a holistic explanatory narrative of countless changes within and among organized systems, extending from the Big Bang to humankind. So the big names in evolution do believe Big Bang, origin of the universe, is part of the evolution theory. The interdisciplinary scenario has the potential to unite physical, biological, and social science, thereby creating the people of all cultures at the start of the new millennium, a consistent, objective, and comprehensive worldview. The father of this Big Bang idea, George Lemaitre, according to the Big Bang theory, the expansion of the observable universe began with the explosion of a single particle at a definite point in time. This is what they teach. Here's European Space Agency. Did the universe start smaller than an atom? Time, space, and matter all began with the Big Bang. In a fraction of a second, the universe grew from smaller than a single atom to bigger than a galaxy. This, of course, would mean that the material is accelerating way faster than the speed of light, millions of times faster, okay? And it's still expanding today. So you have to have time, space, matter, energy, Big Bang. Then they say the universe grew. So energy is continually being added. You have to imagine time, space, and matter coming into existence by itself. Well, if time came into existence and space came into existence 13.772 billion years ago, when I was a kid, it was 20 billion. They changed the number all the time. What was before that? They'll say, oh, there was no before that. Where was this taking place? Well, there was no where. They just avoid their obvious, I think, physical problems, okay? Energy. They claim now that all the energy of all the stars that have ever burned, they're up there burning a whole lot of energy right now. You combine all the energy of all the stars and put that in a dot smaller than a period, smaller than an atom. That's a hot dot, really hot dot. It's stupid, really stupid to believe such a dumb thing. Matter moving faster than light? And they will say, no, matter wasn't exploding and expanding. It was the space between the matter was expanding. Oh, try that with a police officer when you get pulled over. Officer, I wasn't speeding. The distance between me and my house was expanding. I didn't actually move at all. That's how stupid that is. That's what they believe, though. Okay. More energy is being added from where? So I think that it's absolutely silly to claim that Big Bang or evolution is part of science. See, science, let me get a definition here. Science, from the Latin word scientia, knowledge, knowing. The effort to discover and increase human understanding of how the physical world works. I love it. I agree. Okay. Any system of knowledge that is concerned with the physical world and its phenomena, and that entails unbiased observations and systematic experimentation. I agree. What can we observe? We observe the stars are giving a red shift. I agree. That's where the observation stops. Now you want to infer that it's probably the stars moving away. I think I would agree with that, the Doppler effect. But then they want to say, because all the stars are moving away, therefore, that means they all used to be in a dot. They might have just started moving away, 10 years ago or 1,000 years ago. You don't know that, okay? I mean, I don't believe that, but that's certainly, we cannot prove they've always been moving away. That's an assumption. But see, atheists and evolutionists will not admit that evolution is a religion, and you're welcome to it. The word science comes from the word scientia, which means knowledge. The Latin term is derived from the verb ser, which means to know. What do we know? We know cows produce cows. We know that. We see it. We do not know that cows are related to a mosquito or a potato and all have a common ancestor. You can't know that. You can believe that. These charts that they put in our public school textbooks for the kids to learn from, the family tree, this is pure propaganda. This is not science. Nobody's ever seen a cow produce a non-cow. You can believe anything you want, but it's not science. That's all. And the Big Bang Theory is not science. This debate tonight is actually two religious positions. Did God make the universe, or did the universe make itself? The verb ser, which means to know. Scientia was used to describe any type of knowledge, practical skills. Science, knowledge gained from observations and experiments to describe the entire world. I love science. The origin of the universe is, as of right now, completely outside the field of science. You cannot possibly know these things. Knowledge gained from observations and experiments. Knowledge. Science means knowledge. Okay? Now let's see. Religions attempt to understand and explain the world. I agree. But religion is not considered science. I agree. And evolution is a religion. It's not a science. Nobody sees any of the things that they claim happen with evolution. So what I do in my seminar, I've only got a minute left here. I try to carefully explain the 6 different meanings of that crazy word evolution. Cosmic evolution is essential, the origin of time, space, matter. That's the topic of tonight's debate. I'd like to hear Joe explain where it came from scientifically. I can't. Okay. Then we have chemical evolution, where this Big Bang produced all the different elements. I mean, the Big Bang only produced hydrogen, uranium, and hydrogen and a little bit of lithium. So they're claiming that's all gold and silver and platinum came from hydrogen gas. I'm sorry. And helium, it's not science. The third part of this would have to be chemical evolution, all the elements coming. I'm going to run out of time. Anyway, I would like to stand my ground and say very clearly, evolution is a religion. There is no scientific answer that man can ever get for how the universe got here. It had to make itself, or somebody else made it. I think it's just as logical that somebody else made it, called God, outside of time, space, matter. Go ahead.
All right, thanks, Kent, for that opening. We're now going to move into the open dialogue where you and Joe will have up to an hour to discuss this amongst the two of you. So take it away, guys.
He's
And
muted
Joe,
again.
Joe, you're muted again.
Sorry about that. I'm bad about that. So, I mean, you said, Kent, that either God made the universe or it created itself. That is the two options for the creation of the universe. Why?
Can you think? Well, can you think of a third? What's the third option?
Well, I mean, matter, energy is neither created or destroyed. It only changes form. So, to me, it would seem somewhat sensible to say that these things existed in some other form, and what we call the universe arose from that. And whether it's the size is smaller than an atom or whatever it may be, I think you have to allow that those things were already there. The creation, that's why I ask why does it have to be created at all?
I think it's intuitive that anything we see, like the universe, is how did it get here? If you're going to admit that you don't know, then agree that you have a religious belief that it just existed. It just is. That's not a scientific answer. That's for sure. If I said, how did this pen come to be? I think I could give a scientific answer. Some factory someplace manufactured the parts and assembled them, and it's designed for a purpose. I don't know where it was done, wherever that is. Okay, but somebody made this is designed, okay? I think it's intuitive that every time we see design anywhere, we assume there's a designer. If you're looking through a gravel pit like I live in here in Lenox, Alabama, and you find an arrowhead, you immediately conclude somebody made it.
Well,
these things don't happen by chance.
You don't just conclude that it's designed, but that it was designed specifically for us all at once in this one place. Yet we still see the universe, like we still see planets, stars, and those things coming and going all over the universe. So, I mean, to me, I would ask the question: was God not actually done, and just is still creating the universe? Because we still see those things coming and going now. And
okay.
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I would like you to show some evidence of that. I taught earth science for 15 years. There is no evidence of a star or a planet forming. We don't see that. If so, where's the coming from? You can say that.
Right behind me here, we have a nebula, and we have observed clouds of gas collapsing and forming stars in all different stages. In fact, star nurseries we call some of them, and we can see through not only actually watching this cloud of gas collapse and eventually igniting into a star once it reaches that mass, but we also see like what these stars are made of, the same things that the nebulas are made of through spectroscopy. I can't say it. Through spectral analysis.
Right.
So I think that we do see that, and I think that it's been observed many times. Now, do we actually watch like one cloud of gas and we're sitting and watching, and eventually it collapses and becomes a star? I don't know that they've caught that on video or whatever anywhere, but we see the different stages all over the place. We see clouds of gas that do form stars.
Well, I would say I'd like to see the evidence for that. I don't believe that for 1 second. How is a cloud of dust and gas, where's the gravitational attraction going to pull it into a solid and cause it to ignite into a star? You can imagine that if you'd like. You and SpongeBob can have a wonderful time imagining that.
I can actually explain it.
You can show me. You can show me.
Well, I can
gas
give
cloud.
you sources if that's what you like, but I can explain to you how that works, and I think in a simple way that makes sense. So, whenever we're talking about the macro world, dust particles and things like that, gravity exists in if it has mass, it has its own gravitational field, right? Now, whether that field affects all these things or whatever, maybe not. But as that cloud of gas becomes more concentrated because of gravity, it's always pulling together or pulling apart if it's close to galaxies and what have you. But as it pulls itself together, it becomes a larger mass and therefore has a stronger gravitational field. And at a point where the gravitational field begins to fuse atoms together, it ignites and we have a star. I think that's
Well,
explained
that's
under
a
the
story.
gravity.
All you've told is a story. That's not scientific evidence.
Well,
They don't ever see this happen.
Well, see, in science, one of the great things is that model that I just explained, we don't have to sit and watch one cloud of gas make 100 stars or whatever, because under gravity, the theory of gravity and what I just explained of how those things would come together, you can make the prediction of this is what you would expect to see. And then whenever we look at these clouds of gas and say, if stars are made this way, we should see them in all different stages in these clouds of gas. And that's what we see. It confirms those predictions. Now, science doesn't deal in absolutes. So whenever we see those things, we say, okay, well, this is most likely the explanation for this thing. Because again, like you said, science is the attempt to explain the natural world and its mechanisms.
Well, if you can imagine a hand grenade exploding, the fragments that come off the hand grenade go out in a radial direction, like spokes on a wheel, only three-dimensional. They're getting further and further apart. The longer you wait, the further apart they get. If you want to say you believe in the Big Bang, then you can't also have stars forming. How are those particles that are getting further apart going to meet each other out in space? The longer you wait, the further apart, and the less the gravitational pull they have on each other. Inverse square law. So you can't have it both ways. If there was an infinitely dense dot that had all the matter exploding or rapidly expanding, the particles are never going to find each other. The longer you wait, the further apart they get.
Well,
do hand grenade fragments ever hit each other out in the field? No, they get further apart.
You're conflating two things there. So space-time, which expands in some places faster than the speed of light, and matter, which moves through space-time. That matter always has that gravitational attraction, and whenever it's moving away from each other, eventually that energy dissipates or it's acted on by another force, and gravity overcomes the other. Also, I don't think comparing the I love the SpongeBob though. I was hoping to see him today. I think comparing an explosion to the Big Bang is intuitive, but it's wrong. The Big Bang isn't an explosion. It's just the rapid expansion of space and time. And we look at it in Planck seconds, and like you said earlier, up to a fraction of a second, we know this and that. I'm more than happy to tell you that I don't know what caused that to happen. We don't know that. We don't. But you laid out, your technique here is to lay out this false dichotomy where it's either it created itself or a God did it. And it's not necessarily created at all, I would say. And the problem with that is that whenever you try to say, well, if I can't explain it, if I don't have that answer, if I tell you I don't know, then the default is, well, then God did it. And it's just not. That's not a rational place to go. It's not a reasonable thing to say. We look in science, we look at things and attempt to describe them through the laws and properties that we know apply to the universe. And whenever we come to conclusions, it's based on those things that we can either observe or test or repeat, and then we have other scientists look at it and check those things before we get to that conclusion and say, well, we think it's this. And with religion, the reason that this isn't a religion is because it's exactly the opposite. In religion, you have a story that tells you what happened, and then you have to go and try and make that apply to the universe. And you have to go and say, well, it must have happened this way because this is true. it's a presupposition. I think all religious claims are presupposition. Some people don't agree with that, but it's a presupposition that you make that this thing is true. Therefore, it had to have been done this way. And I don't think that matches with the reality that we see.
And I would say it's exactly what you are doing. You've
Sure.
already decided it evolved, and you're already going to squeeze everything into that definition. We don't see energy or time or matter come into existence out of nothing. Now, why don't we make a new universe right here in the room? It's
Well, I mean,
never been observed.
that follows with the eternal universe that I was speaking of before, that it doesn't need to be created. We don't see those things created because thermodynamics says that that's impossible.
Well, again, this is a SpongeBob story, imagination. Just imagine it happened. But there's no scientific evidence. Science, what we can observe. We don't observe universes coming into existence. We don't observe stars coming into existence either. I'm sorry, you're wrong about that. Got all kinds of stuff on stars.
But we do. We're
Okay.
still observing our universe coming into
No.
existence.
We're seeing dust clouds start to glow. That's the end of the science. What you interpret that to be is, a star's forming. Nobody's ever seen a star form. We see a dust cloud, and we see maybe it's glowing because it's getting hot or something. Maybe it's a star that exploded, a nova or a supernova. That would make a dust cloud also.
So I laid out how that follows gravity and stuff. How then, if you can't accept those things that are based on what we see and what we would expect to see, how then do you make the leaps of the religious claim that a creator did it with nothing at all, with much less than what I gave you?
Well, I didn't. The purpose of the debate tonight, is it science or God? Well, so far you've given your religion. So I guess I believe God did it. I take that by faith. But you believe that matter was just there. It's just always been there. That's not a scientific statement. Energy has just always been there. It's like kids these days. Well, Dad's got money. Go to the bank. Dad, get money out. It's always been there.
Well,
you have a religious belief, and that's fine, but it's not science.
I think that it's one explanation that scientists have given. There seems to be a move in theoretical physics to suggest that maybe the universe is eternal, but we don't know that, and I'm fine accepting that. My thing is, though, is that this is what it seems to be. This seems to be a possibility because science gives these explanations and explains the mechanisms that would lead to the universe that we see today, and those things work. And what I'm asking is, like, here's why we think this thing happens. The other option in this debate, anyway, is to suggest that you already know how it happens, and what mechanisms do we see there? Like, how does that work? Because is it just because I believe in God and the book says so? Is that it?
No. I admit right from the beginning, I have a religious belief that God did it. You are not willing to admit you have a religious belief that matter is eternal, or space is eternal, or energy is eternal, or it came out of nothing. Now, I think what we observe, I taught physical science for 15 years. I love physics. We have the laws of thermodynamics. The first, second, and third law of thermodynamics. Matter cannot be created or destroyed. Well, right there, you are stuck. So am I. So heck, I think God did it, but I say that's a religious belief. You think it just did itself. That's contrary. The second law of thermodynamics says everything tends toward disorder. Everything's falling apart. The longer you wait, the worse things get. So you can't say this energy and matter just went on for billions or infinity. By the way, if you don't have a beginning time, if time is infinite into the past, how did we get to where we are today? You can't, it's infinitely past. I think most people agree time had to have a starting point. We couldn't have a 2025, without the birth of Christ to go from, or 13.772 billion years, if you guys want to use that number, from the Big Bang. What was 13.773 billion years ago? Where did time come from? Where did matter come from? Where did energy come from?
See, actually, I think that's your problem and not mine. I think that because whenever you start saying things like what happened before time, those are nonsensical, paradoxical questions, right? So it doesn't make sense to say before something in that sense. which is it actually leads you more to believe that it doesn't have a beginning, that time we experience time through our consciousness in a certain way due to a lot of different variables, gravity and our place in the solar system and all that. But we do see time moving in one direction always. As far as what happened in the past to do with the beginning of time or something like that, I don't know how to approach a question like what happened before time, because it doesn't seem like that makes sense to even suggest. I don't suggest that. So,
Well, then I think you're stuck. You're certainly outside the field of science at that point. The laws that have been observed for centuries of thermodynamics, things get worse. They don't get better. Matter
no.
doesn't create itself. So you have to go. You're going outside of the obvious physical laws, like the law of gravity or the inverse square law. The further apart the fragments become from this imaginary Big Bang or expansion,
Can't be very loud.
the further apart they get, and the less gravitational attraction they have for each other. You get further apart, you double the distance, you quadruple you go down to 1/4 of the attraction. Gravity diminishes with the inverse of square of the distance.
Well, the problem you have there is you have so many bodies moving around at the same time that just because it's moving away from particles over here doesn't mean it's moving away from particles over here. You've got a lot of after that initial beginning of the universe, you have atoms coming together, forming the first stars, and as those stars destroy themselves and spew out the elements heavier than lead, which I know you mentioned earlier, and I can explain where those elements come from too. But as you do that, you have lots of different moving things, and we get into something similar to like the 3-body problem, where you can't really predict that many moving things at once. But
okay, hang on a second. If it began as a rapid expansion or a Big Bang, the longer you wait, like the hand grenade fragments, they get further apart. How are they moving different directions? Where's the energy coming to act on these particles to move them outside of their linear trajectory from the Big Bang? Everything would go in a straight line from one spot to trillions of spots, and they would never find each other out there in space. They're moving away from each other.
It would seem that way. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, yeah, you are imagining that somehow they can go out and get together again. That's not logical. Explain how that happened.
If we're starting with the example of the universe that's smaller than an atom, and then the rapid expansion occurs, you're starting with things on such a small scale that what did we do? Okay, I thought I lost you for a second. We're starting with things on such a small scale that as that expansion occurs, more atoms are cooling and being able to then come together. One of the big things that the Big Bang Theory talks about isn't just how it expanded and the galaxies formed, but there was a cooling that took place that allowed the atoms to function the way that they do, and the forces, the fundamental forces of our universe to take over. In those initial beginnings, we think that gravity and things weren't exactly the way they are now because of heat, and as the universe cooled, it began to coalesce. Gravity took over, and those things began to come together. And you're talking about the whole universe in that single point. That rapid expansion of the universe, we talk about in fractions of a second, like you said, Planck seconds. So, or Planck time. And there's not, I mean, you're talking about a really short period of time and a lot of stuff. I don't know that suggesting that they were too far apart for gravity to take over or for the strong and weak forces to take over really follows. Whenever you see an explosion of something, not every single particle of it goes in a different direction. It expands, and there can be clumps of areas. Now, that gets to the point. Do you want me to keep going, or do you want to respond to that? Because
I'd like to respond. Well, okay. European Space Agency here says the universe grew from smaller than a single atom to bigger than a galaxy in a fraction of a second.
Yes.
So the particles are going away from each other like spokes on a wheel. They're not getting closer together. And just by waiting a fraction of a second, now it's bigger than a galaxy. So there are millions of miles apart. the gravitational attraction between two specks of dust millions of miles away is real close to zero. I'd say zero is close enough. Okay. You want to imagine SpongeBob style that somehow it had the energy to pull on each other and get back together, enough of them pulled together to make a solid. And then it had to get even more dense so that it would light up and become a star. You got to really have a lot of density to light it up. It's all imagination. That's all. I don't mind you guys believing this stuff. I do mind having to pay to have that taught to all the kids in school like it's part of science. I think everybody, Big Bang should be taught in a religion class. It's not part of science. That's all.
Well, I think that whether we actually seen that event occur or not is irrelevant, because we see strong evidence that this is the way. Whenever, again, back to what I did earlier, like, we look at those conditions and then we can make predictions based upon them. And when we make those predictions and it follows exactly what we see, we tend to suggest that this is probably the way that works. We're not talking in absolutes again, which a religion does. A religion tells you absolutely this is what happened. Do not question it. That's the main function of a religion. Science doesn't do that in any way. We're suggesting that that's why I can sit here and tell you I think the universe is eternal, and there's theoretical physicists that will support that, and also a cyclical universe, and also Big Bang cosmology. You can find people that support all those things, because the truth of it is we don't know, and we don't know for sure, and we don't pretend to know for sure, unlike religions. So I don't think that it is in anywhere near the same thing in that aspect. Can I go back and address something you said a second ago, though, real quick? It's just real quick.
Sure. Yeah.
You were talking about thermodynamics and everything moving away in disorder. That's true, but whenever you actually look at thermodynamics, it predicts that we will have order within that disorder as part of it. That you will see pockets of order within it, and it doesn't say that everything moves away. It actually predicts exactly what we see. So I just think that's something that need to be included there.
Well, that again is a SpongeBob statement. You don't know that. We don't see that. Okay. We might see in a landslide, little pockets of order. Okay. Things sorting or something. But the Big Bang idea is that everything grew from smaller than an atom to bigger than a galaxy in a fraction of a second. This is what they're saying. So therefore, the particles are never going to get back together. I think I could make a prediction. If you exploded a hand grenade in the air, the fragments that fly off will never hit each other. It won't happen. Yeah. They'll get further apart. The longer you wait, the further they get. So that's
I know that seems absurd, right? That it started at this small and that it did that and
it is absurd.
But that's that's absurd. I would say that suggesting that a creator poofed it into existence out of nothing is the more absurd statement there.
Okay.
And that while it's your belief, there's actually a reason to suggest the things that I'm saying are the case, even if they're not. We can be wrong. There's no reason to suggest that religion is the case.
See, you titled this discussion or debate tonight of science versus God, and you're nowhere in the field of science. It's evolution religion versus Christian religion is really what it is. It's a religious debate.
Your dismissal of mainstream science doesn't mean that it's not science. It just means
I love science. Don't accuse me of dismissing science.
Well, these are mainstream ideas. These aren't new fancy ideas. They're part of the scientific consensus, and scientists seem to be pretty unanimous on a lot of this. Now, obviously, I said there's things we don't know. They're also, though, honest about that and say that we don't know. Science encourages you to question those things and
I agree.
come up with a theory for yourself. And that's why I give you what I said is I don't think it probably works that way, because it doesn't seem right. But there's a lot I don't know. I'm just some dumb dude from Kentucky. I don't know anything. But
8 or 10 times tonight you've said we don't know, we don't know, we don't know. Okay, then it's not science. The word science means knowledge. What do we know? We know cows produce cows. We know big bangs produce big misses. You want to believe it produced an orderly universe? That's part of a religion, and you're welcome to it. But you go back and play the tape. Many times you said we don't know, and I appreciate your honesty. You are right. You don't know. Nobody knows. I believe God did it. You believe it did itself. You have a religion. But see, you guys want all of us to pay for your religion to be taught in the public schools. Why don't you go start private schools and teach evolution to those that want to pay and come learn it? You got no business being involved in a public school or any tax-funded institution. No museums that receive tax funding should teach evolution. If you really want religion out, get evolution out. That's all I've been saying. I admit mine is. You will never admit yours is a religion because you know you lose your tax funding. That's the problem right there.
Well, I don't know that. In that scheme of things, I would suggest that religion is the one that benefits from the tax laws way more than science in a public classroom, right?
Well, you're trying to include evolution with part of science again. There's your mistake. I love science. We should teach it. I love it. Okay, but evolution isn't part of it.
Well,
evolution.
I think the huge number of scientists that study evolution would disagree.
Yeah. Well, you don't go by majority opinion. The majority of people in North Korea, the majority of scientists in North Korea think communism is good. It doesn't mean it's good. The majority of teachers in communist China think, oh, communism's good. The majority of Hitler's people thought, oh, Nazism's good. Majority opinion is a lousy argument for anything, okay?
Right.
Truth doesn't need truth is truth, even if nobody finds it. There have been many truths discovered in the last 500 years that they didn't know about until somebody found it. Like, wow, there's a truth. The truth didn't change. We just discovered it. Okay? So don't go by majority opinion.
That's the beauty of science, though.
I agree. I love it.
It's not based on that. In fact, the things that you mentioned are closer to religious beliefs than anything. But the science doesn't tell you everything about what's true. Just like you stated earlier, science is us trying to explain the natural world through natural processes, right? We look and we observe and we make an attempt to explain the world that fits within that. We try to make a model, and then we have other scientists study that and refine it, which we've done over time. But at no time does science ever tell you this is the absolute truth and we know it was this way without a doubt. It doesn't say that about evolution. It doesn't say that about the Big Bang. It doesn't say that about the origin of the universe. Religion does, on the other hand. It does tell you that I know exactly where these things came from. And it's just the debate question here was which is a more reasonable assertion, that either God did it or science has the better explanation. And I suggest that science attempts to explain these things, whereas religion doesn't at all. And that's the difference between a religion and science.
Well, I guess you better define the word science. I mean, there's a lot of dictionary definitions about it. Science means knowledge. We do not know that matter can create itself or that matter is eternal. We do not know that. You can believe that. That's what you do. That's been your whole purpose tonight. You believe matter is eternal or energy is eternal or it created itself if it had a beginning at all. So it's not part of science. We don't know that, and you don't know that, and nobody knows that. You believe it. Science is knowledge. We can observe. You don't observe any universes coming into existence. Nobody observes matter creating itself out of nothing. We don't observe that. It's not science, that's all. Science is what do we know? We don't know what you're saying. You believe what you're saying. And congratulations.
It's kind of a dirty trick, Kent, on the science thing. Because science doesn't mean knowledge, and we both know that, right? Like there may be an etymological area where science somehow from Latin means knowledge, like the meaning of the word, but the definition of science isn't knowledge. The definition of science, systematic and organized body of knowledge that is based on observation, experimentation, and the scientific method. That would be the definition of science and what I was trying to explain.
Well, you need to take it up with just about every dictionary published in the history of the world. Science is from the Latin word "scire," which means to know, knowledge. It does mean knowledge. Evolution isn't part of it.
Right.
You don't know that the universe created itself.
So
I don't know. I couldn't prove scientifically that God did it. I think that's the only logical explanation. But I admit mine's a religion. You want to think. You want to pretend that yours is part of science, and it's not.
There's etymological meanings of words, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I think I'm getting it right, but Kentucky accent makes it hard sometimes. So there's the meanings that these words have in their root, and then there's the functional definition of these words. And dictionaries do agree with the definition that I just put forward. Meaning, I can give you several right now that give that exact definition. So,
well, Google the word science, and you'll come up with 20 different websites dealing with that. It means knowledge.
yeah,
We know cows produce cows. We can see that. Okay. We do not know that cows came from an amoeba or came from a dot of a size of an atom. You want to put the whole cow in a dot smaller than an atom and the whole universe? That's just dumb. It's not science. It's not even logical.
that would also violate the laws of evolution, or the theory of evolution. So I don't suggest that cows give birth to anything other than cows, and neither does evolution. The law of monophyly.
Hold it. Now wait a minute. Do you believe cows came from something that was non-cow? Did the cow come from a protozoa or an amoeba or a single-celled creature? The textbooks are teaching the kids everything came from this single-celled creature. That's not science. This single-celled creature produced a cow over billions of generations. Do you believe that?
So I will explain to you how I do accept this chart. So whenever we look at those things genetically, cows share the genetic traits with their ancestors on that tree. And the theory of evolution, which we use to explain the diversity of life on Earth today, then you use that, apply it to those genetic traits that you see going along that tree, and it does give an explanation for that. Now, again, evolution could be wrong. I'm willing to even throw out evolution. Let's say evolution is wrong. There's no evolution of universes or the origin of the universe, chemistry, biology. Evolution isn't there for any of it. But evolution does give an explanation, and it uses the mechanisms within the natural world to give that explanation, and that's why it's science. And that's where we differ, and that's why I don't accept science as a religion, because religion doesn't do that. It says it's this way, and don't look at it. You don't need to look at it because I've given you the answer. Believe in the not seen.
Okay, I have never said at any time in my life that science is a religion. I've said evolution is a religion, and it's not part of science. We know cows produce cows. That's really where it stops. If you wish to imagine a cow coming from a single-celled creature, like this chart shows, that's imagination. And this is what's taught to the kids, and they mixed it in our science class. Just like beer is sold in football games, beer's got nothing to do with football. Evolution has nothing to do with science. I love science, and evolution is, we don't observe or study or do an experiment. So, knowledge gained by observation and experimentation. That's the definition of science, has been for hundreds of years, unless you guys are trying to change that now so you can include your religion.
Let's use your beer analogy, though. So in that beer analogy, when they advertise that beer to you, they show a big frosty mug with a beautiful head on it, and makes you want to drink that cold beer at the game, because it is an artist rendition of that product they're selling you. And I would say that this tree is much of the same. This doesn't tell you all the details of evolution. It's just an artist's example of to simplify it and say these things are related. And genetically speaking, it is a fact that those things are related. Now, whether evolution is the process that caused all that, we could be wrong about that. I don't think we are. I think that there's the fact that evolution occurs, and then there's the theory of evolution, are two different things. But I think that evolution does explain this, and it could be wrong though. But genetically speaking, these things are related. They do share the same genes.
Well, you're making that statement that is not observable. This chart shows the humans and the butterflies having a common ancestor. Joe, are you related to a butterfly?
I share common genetic material with butterflies, yes. And so do you.
Right. Is that because we have a common ancestor, or because we have a common designer?
Well, evolution, again, proposes that it's because of common ancestors and the mechanisms of evolution. If we say it's a common designer, you need to put forth some reason to suggest that designer exists and that these things need to be designed, because we don't see, like, You say a painting has a painter. Trees don't have treers though. Like we don't see that within nature. There's natural things and there's man-made things. We know the hallmarks of man-made things, which don't seem to apply to the natural things. They are different.
Okay, now hold on. I don't know if you studied biology or not, but a tree is way more complicated than any painting ever done by mankind.
Sure.
You got the xylem and the phloem and the way the water flows up and down with capillary action, the way the roots are hydrophobic or hydrotrophic, filio is attracted to the light, or the roots are abhor the light, they get away from the light, geotrophic and geophilic. You need to understand some biology. Tree is way more complicated than the whole space shuttle program. Okay?
Oh,
So, yeah.
I agree with you. I think every bit of life is complicated and interesting, and that we can learn a lot from studying. I agree with that completely. I don't think that our most complex computer programs and stuff, I don't think have anything on the genetic code of any living animal. So
There you go. You're almost a creationist then.
almost.
You're close to being. Yeah.
I was a creationist, and then I quit being one. And after talking to you, Kent, I may go back and
Okay, you should.
meet the treer.
Well, there are hundreds and hundreds of different kinds of butterflies that might have had a common ancestor called a butterfly. I would agree. That does not prove the butterfly and the human are related. The similarities in the DNA structure might indicate much more logical. The same guy's writing this code, because this code is really complicated. The code for Microsoft Word and Microsoft PowerPoint are incredibly complicated. Millions of lines of code to make this computer do what I hit the button and it does it. It's not just, there's millions of lines of code to make a PowerPoint slide. There's also millions of lines of code to make a Word document. I bet the same guy I bet there's similar lines of code in both of those, because the same guys are writing the code. If I'm in Microsoft PowerPoint and I click spell check, it probably takes me to the same dictionary as when I'm in Microsoft Word. I bet Chevrolet and General Motors, I bet there's a lot of commonalities. There's the same guys writing engineering, designing those cars. Okay. So I think you're missing it completely, maybe deliberately, but you're certainly missing it. There has to be a creator. That's the only logical explanation. Again, if you're walking through the woods and you find an arrowhead, nice Clovis point arrowhead, you immediately say, I think somebody made this. This thing doesn't happen in nature. All the flint is chipped just right, and I don't know who made it. It doesn't matter. Somebody made it. If you're walking through the woods and you find a penny, you say, wow, this is made out of copper. It's a natural element. Nobody made this. You'd be a fool to believe such a thing. And that's just a penny.
Well, your position kind of tells on itself there, doesn't it? Because you're pointing out that you can differentiate between man-made things and nature. You've just pointed out that there are things that are natural and there are things that are man-made, and we know the hallmarks of those things, and that's why we come to those conclusions, because we know what man-made things look like. We know what man is capable of producing. We see something that man is capable of producing and has some sort of hallmarks of a designer. We say that, but in nature, we don't see those things. And it's the exact logic that you use to differentiate those two things just now. You said that logically speaking, that you would come to the conclusion that there's a creator. And I would have to challenge you on that to give me that logic, because I don't think it's there. I think actually it's a very irrational position.
Well, I think there's several levels of things in nature. There are living things and there are non-living things, to classify it broadly. Rocks, et cetera, minerals, as far as we know, are not living. Okay. Right. So I think all living things, whether it be plant or animal or bacteria, single-celled creatures, I think they're so complex. One bacteria is more complex than the space shuttle. So I think it's logical to say it had to have a designer. Now, which designer? Is it Jehovah? Is it Buddha? Is it Allah? That's a different argument. But I think there has to be a God. If you're walking through the woods and you find a painting hanging on a tree, a painting is hanging on the tree. And I said, who made it? You said, nobody. It grew out of the tree. Yeah. Nobody would believe that. I don't know who made it, but I know somebody made it. I can't prove who made this world, but I know God has to be somebody who made this world. It's too complex.
Well, you would suggest that because of the example you're giving, you're suggesting then that you have experience of a creator creating worlds and things, so that you know the hallmarks of that design, and you don't. No. That's why we call it nature and natural, because right. You don't have that.
I've never seen the creator create anything. Okay. Right. I believe it by faith.
Yes.
And you've never seen a Big Bang produce anything. You've never seen matter come into existence by
I think
itself.
I'm still seeing it.
You're seeing matter creating itself?
I think that whenever we look at the universe, we look back in time and we do actually see the Big Bang as explained. The expansion of the universe it's still ongoing. And like you said in your opening, you talked about how we then say, well, then these things must have been closer together previously, right? And that we take it all the way back to being a tiny dot. It may not be the case that it makes it back to that dot, but we do know if things are moving apart from each other at a rate, they must have been closer because of the laws of motion. Because unless another force acts upon it, it's going to continue moving in the direction it's moving. So they must have been closer together before.
But could they have been closer together and created? 17 times in the Bible, it says God stretched out the heavens. Could he have made the earth, made the stars, and stretched them out? And we're seeing a red shift. True. And they were closer together. True. Only 6,000 years ago. Move them back in a few million miles, and you can't disprove that.
It's not that couldn't be the case. It's that it's the same as if I woke up today and told you that there's a pink leprechaun outside that does all that, though. Like that, there's no foundation for me to make that claim. And I would say it's the same problem with all religions, that they have no foundation to make those claims of a creator. They do it out of necessity.
Yeah, there's the orange container.
Well, and evolution has no foundation either to make the claim that matter can create itself or came from, or is always eternal. That's not scientifically logical. Certainly not observable. We can believe that.
Evolution, even if wrong, is based on observations that they've made. And yes, there are leaps within it, because that's why we have the fact that evolution occurs. We can see what you would call macroevolution. I would actually argue that we see speciation too, but that's beside the point. But we can actually see that macroevolution occur, and there is some extrapolation, and there are some leaps that are made within that, but those have predictive power, and that again becomes the place where we kind of part ways, because whereas I'm making observations and then coming to a conclusion, you're bringing a conclusion and then using that conclusion to explain the world.
Oh, no. I know you atheists use that statement over and over, and you sound real proud of yourself for saying that, okay? There's a much more logic. I could say, I think it's logical to say, when you see something that looks like it's designed, maybe it was designed and there's a designer. You're walking through the woods and you find a tractor and it's still running. I think you'd come to the conclusion quickly, this thing cannot have been running forever. It's going to run out of fuel and things are going to go bad. So I think when we see a universe that all the parts are moving, the stars are going around, the galaxies are spinning around, the planets are going around, turning and going around their star, central star. The star is burning up a lot of fuel, 5 million tons a second.
Yeah,
I think it can't have been going on forever. It had to have a beginning. Whether the beginning is 6,000 or 6 trillion, there is a beginning, because it's running down like the tractor. It's going to run out of fuel.
Argument.
Well, you can say that if you want, but show me how. Explain how. How's that incredulous?
Well, I think that you're basing it on it's almost the same as like the big numbers argument. Like you're saying, how could all of this happen and these things do this on its own? How could natural processes arrive at all these things? It's just such a wondrous thing that I don't know how it could happen. So it must be a creator. And I would actually say that the explanation is even more wondrous than those things. Whether it's 100% correct or not, again, I don't make that claim, and neither does science. That is the difference between religion and science in this case, is that it's a claim that I 100% know that this is the case, and science says this seems to be what the evidence points to.
Okay, let's take scientific evidence, just an example. Since you rely on billions of years to accomplish what you want to accomplish, I think everybody understands that, studies this, the moon is getting further away from the Earth. The moon is about almost 240,000 miles away. The moon is moving away. This is from, let's see, where is this? I forget where the reference is on that one. The moon's moving away about 1.5 inches a year. It's been known for years, for centuries. The moon is moving away. Spaceplace.net, NASA government says the moon's moving away. Okay. Here's Forbes magazine, Forbes.com. The moon is moving away about 1.5 inches a year. This is from Astronomy magazine. The moon is moving away 1.5 inches a year. No, nobody argues about this. Earth is losing the moon. I agree. Spaceanswers.com. Moon is gradually spiraling away. Physics.org. They know why, because of the lunar drag and the tidal friction and all that kind of stuff. The moon, why is the moon leaving us? The moon is moving away. So you want to use the stars giving a red shift and interpret that backwards into a Big Bang. Let's take the moon, which is moving away. Let's interpret that backwards. Why is the moon getting further from the Earth? Earth-moon distance is to disintegrate. It's going to be gone. Okay. Let's see. This is from Cornell University. The moon's orbit is getting larger, about 4 centimeters a year, 1.5 inches. From space.com, moon has been slowly drifting away for 2.5 billion years. Now, this person does not understand the science behind it. Moon's orbit is increasing 1.5 inches a year. There's a law called the inverse square law. If you would bring the moon back into 1/3 the distance, you take the 1/3, flip it over, and square it. It's 9 times the gravitational pull. Inverse square laws apply to gravity, applies to light, applies to magnetism. Okay, so the Earth-Moon distance is the moon's getting further away. They do all the math on this. Here's Astronomical Journal. They said the lunar orbit would collapse a little over 1 billion years ago. You bring the moon back in closer, all of a sudden, like two magnets, they snap together. Yep. So if you want to extrapolate the stars giving a red shift and say, wow, that proves a Big Bang, well, let's apply that to the moon. That proves the Earth is less than 1.2 billion years old. And you guys want to say it's 4.6.
So
explain that.
This has been something that's came up a number of times. And the thing with the moon, I honestly don't really get it, but so your suggestion is that if the Earth and the universe itself are that old, that the moon would eventually crash into the Earth going back in time because it would be too close, right?
Everybody agrees. All the astronomers that understand this. Let's see, what's the Astronomical Journal? All the major universities agree. The Earth would collapse. Cornell University, or the moon's getting further away. So I'm just pointing out peer-reviewed journals are saying we got a problem with the moon.
I don't have a problem with the moon moving away from the Earth and at the rate that it's doing that today. The issue I take with this whole thing is that as you go back in time and the moon's closer to the Earth, because it is moving away, like we talked earlier, we see it's further away, so it must have been closer, and we've observed it moving further away. So the problem is, though, is as the moon gets closer, it's not just the Earth's gravity acting on the moon. It's a two-body system where the gravity of both is acting on each other. Whenever the moon is closer to the Earth, you get larger tides. Now those tides don't follow right where the moon is; they're offset by 90 degrees. And the reason for that is because they're actually creating drag as they do that. So it actually makes more sense as we go back in time that the rate that the moon is moving away from the Earth now isn't the same rate in the past, that it would have changed because of the drag of the Earth on the moon. That inverse square law that you mentioned actually supports this too, because as it would get further away, those tides would become less and create less drag, and the moon could actually move faster as it got further away from the Earth.
And you need to contact the Astronomical Journal. These are professional astronomers who say it collapses 1 billion years ago. They've known this for 30 years. You need to contact, let's see, who else should you contact? All these professionals, contact Cornell University. Say, look, you guys are wrong.
I don't know that I disagreed with them, actually, though. I think I agree.
Then they're saying the lunar orbit collapses 1 billion years ago.
At its current rate.
No, it's a logarithmic, okay? Because of the inverse square law. Notice this is not a straight line. As you get closer together, it snaps together. They've taken all that into account. Take the moon's current rate and recession, project it back. It ends up with a collision between Earth and moon 1.5 billion years ago. This is space.com. Contact them. Say, look, you guys don't know what you're talking about. They're going to laugh at you.
I would say that what I suggested here is introduction to the Todds, yeah. I'm looking at an article from Talk Origins, which I'll send over to you if you want, but it's got a good 40, 50 different citations from universities and scientists that explain the change in rate that wouldn't cause that to happen. If the moon is closer to the Earth, but moving faster, which it would be at first, and as it moves away from the Earth, the drag of those tides slows the moon down more and more, but it keeps moving because the laws of motion. I mean, I think it's intuitive myself, but I don't think that they're claiming the same thing you're claiming here. But I'll look into it. I have to say I'll look at your slides later and go pull up the references, and I'll post something about it.
That's just one. That the moon spiraling away is just one. I go through the oceans are getting saltier. The sun is obviously burning up a whole lot of fuel.
Yeah.
There are things like, all kinds of ways to show. Let's see, that it simply cannot be billions of years old. Let's see. Oh, not there. Let me go back a second here. Sorry about that. I should have been ready.
You're fine.
Okay. Well, if I had a Bic ink pen, and I told you, I got the picture of it here someplace. Here you go, slide number 105, Alt-DV. If I had a Bic ballpoint pen and said this pen is 5,000 years old, you could easily disprove that. You could say ballpoint wasn't invented till 1888. Let's see, look it up. Okay, just that one fact of science proves my claim of 5,000 is wrong. Then you say plastics weren't invented till 1907 from the oil industry. Well, that just proved me wrong again. You could say Bic wasn't even a company till 1945. Those three simple facts prove the pen is not 5,000 years old. It's not. I don't know how old it is, and I don't care, but it's not 5,000. You're claiming the Earth is billions of years old. There's lots of ways to prove it cannot be. The Earth is slowing down in its spin. Okay, then you go back in time, it was going faster, which starts to create a problem. You want to talk about a tide problem, you got a real serious problem there with the centrifugal force, the tidal problem. Plus, the Earth would flatten out like a Frisbee. I don't believe in the flat Earth, by the way. Kansas is flat. That's the only part. So I think I cover in my video number 1, lots of scientific indicators. This Earth is not billions of years old. You might like it to be for your, turn your frog to a prince, but it's not. But back to the topic tonight, science versus God. You haven't given any science. You've showed your religion versus my religion. And I object to yours being taught at taxpayer expense. I think all you evolutionists should get together, use your own money, and teach your kids whatever you want to teach them. But right now, everybody's paying for your religion to be taught, and I resent that, and I'm going to fight that all my life, and when I die, my videos are going to keep fighting it. Killing me won't do any good.
Well, I would say again, though, like on that subject, even if we're wrong in science, science does attempt to give an explanation through the natural processes that we see. Religion doesn't do that at all. It does not give any explanation. It makes a claim. Those two things are fundamentally different, and why one is science, where we attempt to explain the natural world through natural processes, and religion, which is religion. That's the difference in those two things, and why science is taught in a science classroom. Although I know that you think that these things aren't science, the ideas are supported by natural law, natural mechanisms, and theories. But are there leaps made? Are there things that we don't know for certain? Of course, because again, science doesn't tell you what is certain. It tells you what is probably the case, which is the question we asked here. And science does give an explanation. Religion gives none at all. There's.
Yeah, I know you guys like to say that over and over again, and you probably have convinced yourself that it's true.
I love to say it.
Yeah. Well, science, so we don't know, then it's not part of science. Science is what we can observe, study, and test. It's knowledge. You don't know that it began from a dot of nothing exploding or near nothing. You don't know how the fragments that expanded faster than the speed of light all of a sudden got back together out there somehow.
Yeah.
You don't know that.
Well,
You can believe
I
it.
think as long as we're not operating on the same definition of science, that we're obviously going to have, like, we're not going to agree there because my definition differs than yours. And I'm not saying like anything's right or wrong or whatever. I just like knowledge. What you're calling knowledge. I would actually say that that's the furthest thing from the truth of what science does. Science does contain knowledge, and we use knowledge to stand upon other knowledge to gain more knowledge. But at the same time, science doesn't speak in "I know this is the case." That's the realm of religion.
Oh no, that's where you're mistaken. You want to get a new definition of science so that you can include your religion with it. And I'm sorry, look. Go back to the 1828 dictionary, Webster's dictionary, before anybody thought of evolution. See what Webster's dictionary. Joker, can you Google that? 1828 dictionary, definition of science.
Why would we use 1928 definition?
1828. This way before Darwin. In the history of America, the word science in the English language has always meant knowledge. What do we know?
No, I agree with you that the root of the word meaning could be Latin for knowledge. I don't disagree with that, but I think that's different than what the functional definition is. Like whenever we talk about doing science, we're talking about using the scientific method. We're not talking about just straight knowledge.
Right.
I do like if we use the word, what's one that I just had come up? It was a religious term. Damn it. Sorry.
That is too, by the way, a religious term.
But yeah, I guess it is, right? We have words that have like a root meaning in historically, and I said the word etymological, which I think is the right word, but they have that root meaning, usually Latin in our case, but that's not the definition of the word. Just because the original word meant knowledge, that's not how we functionally use the word in English language today, which is why I asked why we would use an 1828 definition of anything. Okay.
Joseph, can they see what's on our screen here? Oh, okay.
Yes.
This is the first use and definition of science from 1834. Science is a term that has its roots in Middle English period, where it was used to denote a state of knowing. The word was borrowed from the Anglo-Norman language suffix science, which itself was derived from the Latin word scientia, meaning knowledge, awareness, understanding. Modern definition of science emphasizes a systematic approach to building and organizing knowledge through testable hypotheses and predictions. I make a prediction that cows will always produce cows, and they always have. I think we can go back historically, look at ancient artwork, look at ancient books, look at people from the Egyptians or ancient times, and they knew what cows were, a rourke, okay, a horned animal giving milk. I think we would find that that's all that's ever been observed.
Don't get milk from the horned ones.
What's that?
Don't try and get milk from the horned ones.
No.
No.
And I told an atheist, you believe there's 57 genders? I'll pay you $20 to come milk our bull if I can videotape it and watch you go over the fence. Okay.
You probably make some money off that video.
Yeah, I would make a lot of money. So I think that the title that you chose for this discussion tonight is misleading. You are still stuck. You're going to stick with it. I know you have to. That evolution should be part of science, and it's not. We don't observe any animal change to a different kind. We don't observe life start from non-life. Why don't they do it again in the laboratory? If you put a frog in a blender and blend it up, within a few seconds, you have frog dog. Now, what would it take to reassemble the frog and make it come alive? All the scientists in the world can't do that. All the scientists in the world combined cannot make an acorn. This little nut, this acorn, knows how to make an entire tree. Do you know how to make an entire tree? This nut does. And all the scientists in the world cannot make an acorn, let alone one that's going to produce a tree that's going to produce 10,000 more acorns.
No.
It just had to have a designer.
You're right. Contained within my DNA is that ability, right? So,
right,
which is why we say that we're related, because you do find that same genetic material that does that. And I know you say common designer, but the again, it's not that evolution is this absolute thing that has to be true. I would actually argue that the science comes before that. Evolution is the conclusion from using science, and that conclusion could be wrong, and science itself allows for that. The scientific method allows for that to be checked and peer reviewed and tested and observed. So I think that evolution is the conclusion of science, not science itself, in the way that you're using it anyway.
Well, that's why I always start off my debates, except on this topic, when I talk about biological evolution, you have to define the word. There are 6 different levels or stages or meanings: cosmic, chemical, stellar, organic, origin of life, macro, an animal changing to another kind. None of those have ever been observed. Microevolution is a lousy word. They shouldn't use it, but we do, so we'll explain it. It's a variation within the kind. There are now 339 breeds of dogs that probably had a common ancestor called a dog. Okay? That does not prove dogs are related to bananas. Dogs, wolves, and coyotes probably had a common ancestor. They can interbreed. They've crossbred coyotes and wolves, coyotes and dogs, dogs and wolves. They can all interbreed. They may not want to in nature, but they can. But you cannot crossbreed a dog with a pine tree or an elephant or a banana. It's not, they're different kind. God said they would bring forth after their kind. I think that's the only logical conclusion. It must have been designed with some kind of barrier.
I know that this talk wasn't necessarily. I know evolution is related to this, right? It's adjacent to the thing that we're talking about. So, the question I have then is that if you don't accept that, but cows come from cows, and we have all these species of cows. Dogs come from dogs. We have all these species of dogs that may have came from a wolf or whatever. Then it seems to me that you believe in evolution more than I do. That you cram it all into 6,000 years and say that we got all of these species from the cons, as the Bible says on the boat. If you use con in that manner, then we get all of these very quickly within a couple thousand years. Seeing new species pop up every single day. And I don't think that's the same as the reality we experience.
Well, I think most of the dog varieties have been done by artificial selection by humans, speeding up the process. I don't know how old. I think different types of dogs may have to be, 1 or 2 years old before they can breed. You take bacteria. They're born, grow up, get married, have babies in 8 hours.
Yeah.
3 generations a day. And all they've done with their experiments with bacteria is produced more bacteria. They've never gotten an elephant or anything close. And you get 3 generations a day.
The metabolism of those things, though, matches up to that. When we don't see new species of I don't like dogs because dogs are actually an example of unnatural selection. So I don't really care for that one. But on any wild animal that we have a number of species of, which most of them, like there's different varieties. There you go. There, leopards. So do we have to have then those leopards in the wild popping up within a couple thousand years, all of this variation? But we don't continue to see variation at that rate now. Yet 99% of all the animals we've discovered are extinct. So that's not just it's not just those animals that we have now. It's going back to all the ones that we've ever had have to be explained within that 6,000 year time period. And it requires a form of hyper-evolution, not just evolution, but that you have very hyper-evolution.
I would say you guys want to get all the different types of animals in the world into a dot. That's dumb.
Eventually.
I think we've been going plenty long enough. We should take questions from the audience now, if anybody's got any, unless you got something else you want to cover.
I think we're there, Kent.
Okay.
What do you think, Farm?
Well, that sounded like a really good debate, and it has been almost exactly an hour. So I guess we're coming to the close of... Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
It's been just a few minutes past an hour. So if you guys are ready to do questions, then I've got questions for you from the audience.
And I'll hand it off to Sparrow to do the questions.
All right. Let me get back to the beginning. Okay. This question is from Austin Sims. Question for Kent. You say you taught algebra for several years. Can you tell me what this is? Oh, okay. There's a. Okay. No, that doesn't help. Let's see. Never mind. We'll skip that one because I can't really.
It's way off track. It's ad hominem completely. The topic tonight is creation versus evolution. So algebra's got nothing to do with it. Okay. That's an example of how
right.
they want to divert attention from the fact that they feel like they're really losing the debate.
Let's see. We've got another question. Sweet Pea from Sweet Pea to Kent. Kent, did the chicken or the egg come first?
Chicken.
All right. And we have another question from Ember. An opening statement says that, quote, the other side is silly, end quote, is a fine strategy. But what can you both demonstrate about why your own position is true? So I think that's for both of you.
Joe?
Okay. Why my position is true. So my position is that science provides the best explanation for the origins of the universe. I would say that the things that I put forward as the mechanisms and the facts surrounding the origins of the universe can be checked. You can go look for yourself at these things. You can look at the science. You can look at the universe today. You can do the math and do the observations, and most scientists seem to come to those same conclusions from those things. I can't say that it's 100% true though, and I don't pretend to.
Okay, I think if an archaeologist goes out and digging in the ground and he uncovers a city, and he finds in that city bones of people and pottery and writing of whatever language and tools, I think it's logical that he has found a civilization that formerly lived there. Anybody would say, yeah, that's correct. He probably uncovered some ancient civilization. I think if you look at the evidence, you'd have to say, there's a designer behind everything on this planet. Every living thing for sure, and even the non-living things like the rocks and minerals, the way the atoms go together, the atomic structure, the way the chemical reactions work to make all the different types of stones or all the different types of sediments that we have. There's even a designer for that. Why are hydrogen and oxygen molecules, when they get together to make water, since you got oxygen and two hydrogens that are positively charged because they're electrons being shared, why aren't they exact polar opposite from each other? Why the 105-degree angle? Interesting. If it didn't have that 105-degree angle, the water would freeze and be solid and sink to the bottom. And the lakes would freeze from the bottom up and all fish would die. As it is, because of that 105-degree angle in the hydrogen-oxygen molecule, water molecule, that traps a little air pocket, it gets 12% lighter, and it floats. Almost like it was designed. I think there are trillions and trillions of examples of this amazing design. And several times tonight, my opponent has said, you don't accept. They love to throw that word in. You accept evolution. They don't want to admit they believe in evolution. I can accept anything that's true. I don't accept evolution because it's not observable. It's not scientific. You can't test it. Make life happen again in the laboratory.
I do
all
both.
The scientists in the world cannot make an acorn. And as I've said many times, if all the scientists someday could create life, all that would prove is it takes intelligence to create life, which I've been saying all along. Go ahead.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Here's another question. This one's submitted by Creationist Crybaby, and it is for you, Kent. It says, Kent, your appearance of age asks us to accept that light from supernovas came from stars that never actually existed. Please explain past supernovas in a 6,000-year-old universe.
Okay. Well, he's got a false assumption in his premise, okay, in his question, a false premise. Supernovas are stars blowing up or exploding. That is the opposite of what they need. They need to see stars forming, like 11 trillion stars per second would have to form to make what we have. Nobody's ever observed a star forming. They see a dust cloud lighting up, and they assume it's forming. It could be just the opposite. It could be it just exploded, okay? But I think the Bible clearly teaches that God created the earth first, and then the stars, and then he stretched them out. So as they're stretching out, if one of them explodes on the way, we would see the supernova. See, people get this wrong idea that a light year is a time. A light year is a distance. A star could be 10 trillion light years away and could have been created yesterday. It's a distance. It's not a time.
Okay. All right. And we have another one from Creationist Crybaby again. This one's for you, Kent. It says, how do you respond to criticism that quote unquote intelligent design is a form of creationism that lacks empirical support and offers no testable hypothesis and is therefore not science?
Well, I think that's a lousy question. I think if I told you this little timer right here, which you can buy at Walmart for what, $10, okay? This little timer looks like it's been designed. Got a little leg that folds out to stand up. It's got buttons you can push to tell, it's a stopwatch kind of stuff. It's got a battery. It looks to me like it was designed, intelligently designed. That's not science. That's a logical conclusion. If you look at a single cell of the human body, one cell, and you probably have 100 trillion of them, one cell is more complicated than the space shuttle. It looks like it's designed. I don't see any way that he said that's not intelligent to say that things that look like they're designed, maybe they were designed. Again, if you're going through the woods and you find an arrowhead, you would immediately conclude somebody designed it. If you're going through the woods and you find a watch, you would immediately conclude somebody dropped a watch. You would never dream it oozed up out of the mud or grew on the bark of a tree. It's just intuitive. Now, Crybaby will go all night. He's dying for attention. Crybaby, hi, Crybaby. Are you doing better now? Yeah, you'll be okay. Go to sleep. I got your pacifiers right up here, okay? Time. That's their pacifier. Time. Billions of years. When you start pulling out that pacifier, they panic. They cry. Don't you, baby? I mean, somebody made me a model. I got it up here. I better get it, Joseph. You got to see this. Hang on.
Well, while he's doing that, hi, Big Bad Mama. Great questions.
Says creationist Crybaby on the pacifier.
Oh,
He calls
really?
in every show.
Kent's turning into
He can't
Carrot Top, a prop comic here.
Well, he can't make his own channel. Nobody's going to watch him, so he comes on my show where I've got followers because he's trying to get attention. I understand. Everybody say hi, Crybaby. Hi. There's your attention now. Go away. Okay. Next.
All right. Let's see. Our next question is from Ember. It's a question for both of you. Say both sides are religions. Why should we believe your faith instead of any other?
Go ahead, Joe.
Well, if we're gonna call them both religions, then I mean, I still think that the logic that you're using within what the science religion in this case is based on evidence supporting a conclusion, and I think in the especially Christian religion that it's what's called post hoc rationalization, where we have a story and an answer, and then we apply that to the world around us because it's true. And I think that they just function in different ways. And so if you're going to call them both a religion, I would still say that one that's supported by facts and evidence and those things that comport with reality is always going to be the better choice.
I agree, and that's creation. If some primitive people drop a Pepsi can out of an airplane over a primitive tribe, when they find that can on the ground, they're going to conclude immediately somebody made it, even though it's all natural materials, aluminum. Okay, somebody designed it. Looks like it's designed to be held in the hand. Looks like it's designed to give some kind of message. They can't read the message, but they say, well, it's trying to tell us something. Okay, and it looks like it's designed to hold, probably a liquid. I think a primitive man would conclude that. When you see the design in nature, whether it be the microcosm or the macrocosm, you say, man, the whole thing is designed from the atoms to galaxies. There's a designer. Now, which one? As I've said, is it Allah, Buddha, Jehovah? That's a different argument.
We'll call Ray and we'll call Ray Comfort and ask if you can borrow his banana.
Call Matt? Yeah.
I'm just joking.
So Emma, I think I would answer your question this way, or Ember, I'm sorry. I believe there is so much evidence of obvious design, you'd say there has to be a designer. The guy who designed this pen probably did it for a reason, to be able to write and record things, okay? He probably designed this cap to keep it from drying out. Looks to me like it's designed. I think if God created the universe, he probably did it for a reason. What reason? I think it's logical. If you buy a complex machine, you get an owner's manual with it. It tells you how to operate the thing, okay? Because it's complicated. I think we have an owner's manual that tells us who God is, why he did it, and what he wants out of us. I think he left an owner's manual behind called the Bible. I take that on faith, okay? I believe it's true. I think it's sure better to live by this book than it is to live by the evolution laws. Strongest survive, kill everybody who's inferior. Yeah, Charles Darwin led straight to Adolf Hitler. Hitler wanted to kill the inferior species to speed up the process. So I think whether true or not, the creation message certainly is better for the world than the evolution message.
All right. This next question is for.
Sorry.
This next question's for from Limited Light for Kent. It says, can you prove you're Eric's father? I don't know what that is.
Well, yeah, there are DNA tests now that you can prove you're somebody's father. If we have DNA tests that are similar to us and a bacteria, does that prove they're our father? No. This is taking the analogy way too far. I think that the DNA test that you find there's some similar lines of code in a bacteria and a human is the same designer. If I proved that Microsoft Word and Microsoft PowerPoint had millions of identical lines of code, would that prove that Microsoft Word wrote PowerPoint or PowerPoint wrote Microsoft Word? No, the same guys designed them. It's way too complex. So yes, I agree. I understand how DNA analysis works and how you can prove you're somebody's father. I understand all that pretty well. So yes, Eric is my son. He lives in Pensacola, Florida. You can contact him Creation today if you'd like. Okay. So what's it have to do with anything else?
All right. Thank you. Let's see. The next question is from Ember again. And it is a question for both of you. Can either of you explain how general relativity's demonstrated curvature of space influences the movement of particles across cosmic distances, i.e., no straight lines in space?
Right. Well, I would say that we go with, isn't there a little quip that space tells matter how to move and matter tells space. I forget how the saying goes, but I don't know exactly what you're asking for there. But yeah, I would say that matter follows the curvature of space as things become more massive. It's actually kind of the thing that we call gravity explains that, but yeah, I don't really know where to go with that, honestly.
That's fair enough. I think the whole idea of curved space is stupid. I don't think the people who thought it up knew what they were talking about. I don't think anybody today knows what they're talking. It sounds real great. Wow, gravitational curving, and we can move two particles that are billions of light years away. All of a sudden they're touching, It's stupid. It's real stupid. I don't believe it at all.
Okay. All right.
So,
next question is from Limited Light. Oh, I'm sorry. Was there another?
I just wanted to say that the half quote that I spit out was, space tells matter how to move, matter tells space how to curve. That was what I was trying to say.
Ah,
A
That's
cool
all.
okay.
quote. It's a meaningless quote. It's a cool one, but it's meaningless.
Yeah.
You don't understand. Nobody in the world understands what that quote says. You don't either. I don't either.
I disagree, but we'll get into that later.
All right. From Limited Light, let's see. Never saw Kent procreate. Kent prove you're Eric's father. I'm sorry. I guess this is another one
Okay,
regarding
limited
that.
light, limited light. That was done privately in the bedroom. It's none of your business.
That's not in the DVD collection. You got to get the the extended version.
Oh,
My wife and I were both virgins on our honeymoon, and we have 3 children, and she's the mother and I'm the father. Okay, if you need me to explain how it happened, I taught biology and anatomy. I think I can explain it really well, but I'm not going to do it publicly. Go ahead.
right. Thank you. Let's see. This one is another one from Ember. Question. I'm thinking for both of you because it doesn't specify. Question. How does each determine truth? Quote unquote truth.
Well, whenever we talk about what's true, I would say that what's true is those things that are supported by facts, that those things that comport with reality. So I really hate to do this because I'm going to spit out a big long R and raw quote here, and I'm not really trying to do that. But yeah, those things that comport with reality seem to be true. We test things and we do our best to explain them within the confines of language and science and many other disciplines, and we do our best. As far as what's true, I think that's a big philosophical conversation that's really deep.
Very good. There was a guy in the Bible, one of the politicians in the Bible, what is truth? Okay. Politicians still don't know what it is. Okay. They have a hard time finding it.
Yeah.
I like that quote from, was it, You Can't Handle the Truth? What movie was that?
A Few Good Men.
A Few Good Men. Yeah. Can't handle the truth. As far as reality is cows produce cows. Nothing else. Bacteria produce bacteria. Hamsters produce hamsters. People produce people. There are no exceptions. Now, if you wish to believe these stupid charts and draw lines between them, all this is artwork. This is not science. This is a bunch of artwork. You'd have to go to college for years to be stupid enough to believe that.
Gotcha.
I think that's an artist's rendition of a phylogenetic tree. So I don't.
I'm sure you do.
All right, let's see. The next question is from Sweet Pea. Kent, please explain tetrapods and how humans evolved from them. Thank you.
Well, they didn't. That's like asking me to explain why elephants are orange. They're not orange. Humans did not evolve from tetrapods. Tetra meaning 4, okay? 4-legged animals. Humans walk on 2, but we have 2 arms. We don't usually walk on them. So the question is invalid. We did not evolve. Nothing has changed other than limited changes within the same kind. There's lots of varieties of humans on the planet. There's dark skin, light skin. There's red hair, blonde hair, black hair. Here, this is the real Kent Hovind right here, okay? So I get out in the sun a lot doing my tours of Dinosaur Adventureland. Come on down, take a tour. So I think there's varieties of humans. It's a lot of fun. There's still, the only problem is our well water here. I need to warn you, we got well water, and if you drink well water, your babies will be born naked. That's been demonstrated over and over and over again. That's a fact of science, okay? Your babies will be born naked. So I think the varieties we see with humans are limited. They're still human. They're still interfertile. That is not evidence that we're related to a chimpanzee or a monkey or orangutan or baboon or gorilla. You can believe that if you want, but that's not science. We don't observe that. We observe humans always make baby humans, always.
All right. Let's see. Okay, next question is from the Atheist Reformation. Question for Ken. How do you respond to allegations that your doctorate isn't real, seeing as Patriot Bible Institute was never an accredited institution of higher learning with the U.S. Department of Education?
I think that's completely ad hominem and off topic. If somebody came from Germany with a doctor's degree from a German university and came to America, we would say that German university was not accredited by the American Accredited Association. Is he therefore not a doctor? It's a really stupid argument. If you don't like my degrees, call me Kent. You've done that all evening. That's fine. I don't care. I have three earned doctors and one honorary. If you don't like it, call me Kent. Okay. I don't focus. That's my people around here. I don't focus on that. They call me Brother Hovind or Doc if they want to. I don't make them call me anything. I think I worked hard for my degree. I think if you went to college for years and earned a doctorate degree and came out believing you came from a rock and you're related to a potato, I don't like your degree very much either, but I'll honor you and call you doctor. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Let's see. The next question is from Austin Sims. Question for Kent. It says, you say you love physics, quote unquote, order and disorder have very specific meanings in the context of entropy. Give us the physics definition of order, disorder, and entropy. Not common.
Okay, this is not a quiz tonight of my knowledge of anything. This is the topic of the debate is which is a better explanation for the origin of the universe? So keep on topic, please. Get another question.
All right. Let's see. Next one is from Deconstructing Laura 42. For Kent. Kent, let's see. Why does Kent continue to deny that the light from the stars has been traveling to Earth for billions of years? We have literally done the math on this. Okay.
Wouldn't that obviously be based on the assumption, which they deny, that things are consistent? Has the speed of light always been the same? Can you prove the speed of light, 186,282.6, whatever it is, miles per second? Has that always been the same? Joe wants to make the recession rate of the moon vary back. You don't know it's the same back in the past. How do you know the speed of light was not something different in the past? Again, I throw that back, turn it back around on him, okay? What we know is you cannot measure the distance to these stars beyond probably 50 or 100 light years. They can imagine it beyond that. I watch on my video number 7, I go through all the trigonometry about that, how to measure the distance to a star with parallax trigonometry. That's the sure way. And then everything else is based on obvious assumptions. Luminosity, how bright it is. There's just way too many assumptions. The stars probably are billions of light years away. They could have been created yesterday, billions of light years away. You don't know that. We don't know that the speed of light's always been constant. The Bible says God stretched out the heavens. That seems to be the best explanation, but I don't claim that I can prove that scientifically. All the stars seem to be showing a red shift, which we assume is the Doppler effect, that the star is moving away from Earth. It's interesting, all moving away from Earth. Like we're the center of the universe, center of God's attention. Bible says God made the earth, then he made the stars, and he stretched them out. So they probably are billions of light years away. We cannot measure those distances. You can't measure it. Earth's orbit around the sun is 16 light minutes in diameter. It takes sunlight 8 minutes to get from the sun to the earth. So our orbit is 16 light minutes. A year has 525,000 minutes in it. So if you want to make a triangle with 1 light year, you have 16, let's change it all to inches, 16 inches to 8 1/3 miles. If you had a triangle where point A and B are 16 inches apart, and the third point is 8 1/3 miles away, that's the triangle you get with 1 light year, 1. If you had 2 surveyors 16 inches apart with telescopes looking at a dot 525,000 inches away, 8 1/3 miles, but you don't know how far away the dot is. You have to tell me how far that dot is away based upon the angle of declination of your telescopes, like a surveyor would do. That's a real skinny triangle. I think you'd have a hard time getting accurate measurements for 1 light year. They want to say 100. If you had 2 surveyors 16 inches apart in New Orleans looking at a dot in Chicago. And all they know is they're 16 inches apart. And how far out of parallel are their telescopes to find that dot in Chicago? That's the angles you get for 100 light years. It's not common sense to say we can measure stars billions of light years away. They can believe that if they want. I remain to be convinced. I taught trigonometry as well. I'd like to see, how did you do this? Spell it out for me. You can't do that. Now, I'm not saying they're not that far away. They probably are. I'm just pointing out, we don't know the distance. We don't know the speed of light's always been the same. We know that light appears to be, deflected by gravitational forces as it travels through space. Seems to be bending around, Maybe something slows it down or speeds it up. They've been able to speed up light in the laboratory and able to slow it down. So I think it's all based. And so if a star is 14 billion light years away, that doesn't prove it's 14 billion years old. A light year is a distance. It's not a time. By the way, I appreciate all the questions being for me because I get to share my viewpoint tonight. Thank you so much.
All right. The next question is from Sweet Pea. It says, Kent, can you explain how climate change is impacting Earth's gravitational pull and the other planets?
Well, again, there's a built-in assumption with that question. I don't know about the climate change. I don't know that we can prove there really is such a thing going on. Okay, we see the ice caps melting back and then advancing, and that's been going on for before there was any human activity to speak of. Okay, I think that I would be a skeptic of the climate change. I certainly wouldn't say because somebody believes there's climate change, therefore everybody in the world has to be regulated whether they can breathe air or not. Like the burning of fossil fuels, that releases carbon dioxide. Oh, the plants love it. That's what they live on. I think when they burn fossil fuels, all the plants in that area thrive. They absorb it right away. I don't think we can change the climate like they claim we are doing. I don't think we can do it. So I'd have to be convinced.
Can I say something about that real quick? Just real
Sure.
fast. Those plants that absorb all that carbon dioxide, what happens when those plants die?
Well, today they rot, get back into the soil, and if they get buried under enough mud, they turn to coal.
And the
That's where
carbon
all the coal
dioxide eventually,
It-
much of
well,
that
it can
carbon
be-
dioxide goes back into the atmosphere.
Some of it go back in the atmosphere, some of it can be locked in, like if it's in coal or something like that.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter.
Okay.
If there's enough
Okay.
plants to absorb it. So if you want to believe in climate change, that's fine. If you want to force all the people to follow, some regulations because of your imagination, I think that needs to a lot of further study, like about 500 years more study, and then before we decide anything.
Okay. Different conversation altogether, so I'm not going
Altogether.
Yeah, but just curious about that one thing. All right, sorry.
All right. And then we have another question from the Atheist Reformation. Question for Kent. Scientists can't make an acorn. Now ask a tree to make a laptop. It's just as stupid a question. Okay.
I would say the acorn
not-
is trillions of times more complicated than a laptop.
Acorns make acorns.
Right. Acorns make oak trees, and oak trees make acorns.
Oh,
It's
okay.
happened. We've observed that. A lot of people have observed it. We've never observed a laptop make itself. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was an actual question or if it was.
I think it's an example of their desperation. Okay.
Oh gosh.
Go ahead. By the way, it's been 2 hours. I gave tours all day of Dinosaur Adventureland. I had to get up before breakfast this morning. It was awful. And I'm tired. So let's kind of speed it up a little bit here. Okay.
No problem.
That
Go to
that was
round two.
actually. Yeah, that was actually the end of the ones that I had. I think there's been more posted in the live chat that I haven't seen yet. So let's see. There's another
Sparrow.
let's see.
Hang on, Sparrow. While
Oh.
you're looking at that, I have had 389 debates on the creation evolution topic. I'd like to get to 1,000 before I die, and I'm getting older every day.
Oh.
So some of those in the Q&A, call Joseph, or sit down right over there, 855 Big Dino, extension 4, and let's book another debate. I'll do one every day. I'd like to get to 1,000 debates before I die. And I want to make diet the last thing I do.
Can I be number 420, Kent? Can I do debate number 420 with you?
420. I'm only on 389. Sure.
Yeah. Whenever 420 rolls around, I would like to do that one.
Special reason for 420? Is that an address or a phone number?
No, I'm a big fan of cannabis, and it's related to that.
That's not your weight and something or anything. Okay.
I figured we would do, like, me and you could smoke a blunt together and discuss evolution.
I don't want to smoke a blunt. I smoked two
natural.
cigarettes when I was 12. 12 years old. My
Yeah.
buddy said I smoked 2 cigarettes. I thought, I don't want to put a butt in my mouth and suck on it the rest of my life. No, I'm not going to do this.
Oh, come on. You got to have a little fun sometimes. Got to live.
I have lots of fun. That's not fun in my book.
Are we winding this up then?
I'm done. If you want, but you go ahead.
Yeah, I think so. The other, let's see, I did find another question, but it wasn't really something I think that I don't think it was a question Kent would probably be interested in answering. It wasn't really related to the debate topic or anything. It was,
They always go to ad hominem. Always.
yeah, it was something completely.
Well, then, since we're about wrapping this up, let's see, who wants to go first and tell everybody where they can find you? You want to go,
ahead,
Joe? Where can our audience find you?
You can find me over on the Kentucky Atheist YouTube channel and the Kentucky Atheist on pretty much all social media. I'm not on Twitter, but the rest of them, you can find me under that. And I'm always willing to have conversations about these things with anybody that wants to talk about it. Love to have these conversations. And I just want to say thanks, Kent, for being a good sport and talking with me. Kent and I have had a few interactions, and they've always been great interactions. And I won't say any different about that. Kent has been nice and willing to talk with me. Some nobody guy from Kentucky. Kent's had conversations with doctors and lawyers and everybody, all different things, and takes the exact same amount of time and effort into having the conversation with me. And I appreciate that. So that's all I can say.
Awesome. And how about you, Kent? Where can our audience members find you?
Right here behind the desk.
I mean, online. Do you
Okay,
have
Well, I'm in Lenox, Alabama, a little bitty town about that big, straight north of Pensacola, 70 miles. And we're in Lenox, Alabama. Our website, drdino.com. We're on every channel except YouTube. All the atheists got together to get us taken off of YouTube because they can't handle the truth. Okay. But anyway, we're on a bunch of other channels. It really caused us to spread out into a lot more stuff. So go to Dr. Dino. You can call me, 855 Big Dino, extension 3. I take calls all day long. I answer the phone. Hello, Ken Hovind here. Is this the real Ken Hovind?
It looks like you've got a. It looks like you have a Rumble account too, and.
I do. Yeah. Rumble, Twitter, Instagram.
So.
We have our own app, KentHovind.tv.
If you could have
Nice.
could have your guy send me the links, I can add them to the description of this. I didn't get them before the show, but I will add them.
Joe said he's going to do that right now.
All righty, thanks, Joe. So I guess that we're going to wrap this up. I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. This has been a great debate, and I hope you enjoyed our show. Our participants' links will be in the description, and if you like their performance here, please consider subscribing to their channels. Remember to hit that like button, and if you like the show, also consider subscribing to our channel and hitting that bell to make sure that you do not miss any of our exciting content coming up. Well, thanks again for coming, and remember, let's not fight. Let's debate. Thank you.
Love it.
Thanks.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Kent. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
All right. We're shutting her down.